Okay, じゃあ皆さん, today I'm going to introduce another one of our forms that we use in Japanese. So once we have talked about this form that we're going to introduce today, we'll be done with pretty much all the major grammatical forms that we use in Japanese. This is the last one. But before we start talking about the one we're going to study today, I want to kind of review some of the related forms that we have already studied before. So the first one I want to talk about is the passive form. So passive is what we use to talk about, we put the focus on the person who had something done to them. And usually the idea with a passive form is that it's something that you're not happy about, right? So for example, we have iku. When we want passive form for u verbs, we want to change the u sound to an a sound and add reru. So iku becomes ikareru, yobu, yobareru, yomu, yomareru, kau, kawareru, hanasu, hanasareru, shinu, shinareru, toru, torareru. Do verbs, on the other hand, the passive form, we're going to get rid of the do and add rareru. So taberu will become taberareru, miru, mirareru. And irregular verbs, suru changes to sareru, kuru changes to korareru. So all of these passive verbs, they conjugate just like do verbs. So, this, sorry, I meant to mention first the taberareru, mirareru, korareru. Those are the same as the conjugation is in the potential form. We can tell which one we're using based on the context. And all of these passive verbs conjugate just like do verbs. So sareru, saremasu, sareta. They all conjugate the same way. We drop the ru and add the mas or ta or whatever we have to add. We also talked about the causative form. The causative form kind of works in a similar way. We get rid of the u and change to an a sound, but this time we're going to add seru. So for the u verbs, iku, ikaseru, yobu, yobaseru, yomu, yomaseru, kau, kawaseru, hanasu, hanasaseru, shinu, shinaseru, toru, toraseru. On the other hand, for the do verbs, we're going to get rid of the do and add saseru. So taberu, tabesaseru, miru, misaseru. For irregular verbs, we'll change the suru to saseru and kuru to kosaseru. And once again, all of these causative verbs will conjugate the same way as do verbs. So saseru, sasemasu, saseta. Okay, so that is the passive form that we studied in chapter 21 and the causative form that we studied in chapter 22. Now we're going to take a look at one last form for Japanese, the causative passive form. So as you might be able to guess from the name, the causative passive form, it's a causative, so like somebody makes someone do something. But in this case, like we have with the passives, it puts the focus on the person who is made to do something. And the idea is that it also implies that you are really unhappy about it. So like it emphasizes like you are forced to do something and you really don't like it. So this causative passive form, in order to conjugate the verbs, what we're going to do for u verbs is drop the u and change it to an a sound. And then we're going to add on sareru. So iku becomes ikasareru, yomu, yomasareru, kau, kawasareru, matsu, matasareru, toru, 取らされる. The one thing that we have to watch out for are the verbs that end in su. So if we conjugated the verbs that end in su this way, it would end up the same as the causative form that we just talked about. So instead, we have to change it to 話させられる. So anything that ends in su, like 話す, 貸す, 返す, we have to use this way. So 話させられる. The do verbs, we are going to drop the do and add させられる. So it's a little bit long, but you can say it. So 食べる, we change to 食べさせられる. 食べさせられる. 見る, we get rid of the do. 見させられる. する, the causative passive, these are the irregulars. する is させられる, and 来る is 来させられる. So this is how we make the causative passive versions of verbs. So let's take a look. So let's look back at some of our passive sentences that we've had before. So for example, 私は母に手紙を読まれました. I had my letter read by my mom, and I'm not happy about it. 私は田中さんにカメラを壊されました. I had my camera broken by Tanaka-san, and I'm not happy about it. ですね. So in this case, the person who receives something, は, the actor, に, and then our last part is in the passive form. So we are expressing that like something unpleasant happened to us due to the action of the verb. We also have お母さんは子供に歯を磨かせます. Or お母さんは子供に部屋を掃除させます. So the mother made the child brush their teeth. The mother made the child clean their room. So director は actor に causative をさせます. So you make someone do something ですね. So the causative passive works like this. 私はお母さんに歯を磨かされました. 私はお母さんに歯を磨かされました. 私はお母さんに部屋を掃除させられました. 私はお母さんに部屋を掃除させられました. So I was forced by my mother to brush my teeth. I was forced by my mother to clean my room. So the actor は director に causative passive. So these are in the same way as like we have a regular sentence and a passive sentence, and they have the same information but from the opposite perspective. These causative passive sentences have the same information as a causative sentence, but from the opposite perspective. Instead of talking about somebody made me do something, we focus on I was forced to do something by somebody. So, and once again, the idea is like it's really emphasizing how unhappy you are about being forced to do this. It makes you really annoyed or frustrated or sad that you had to do this. So, a causative then, お母さんは子供に歯を磨かせます. The mother makes the child brush their teeth. Or, versus, 私はお母さんに歯を磨かされました. I was forced to brush my teeth by my mom. お母さんは部屋に、お母さんは子供に部屋を掃除させます. Versus, 私はお母さんに部屋を掃除させられました. Okay, so that gives you a general idea of how the causative passives work. Now let's take a look at the activities below.